She won't attack you directly. That's not how power is taken. She won't yell, she won't demand. She won't raise her voice or her hands. She'll smile, she'll delay, she'll test, quietly. And when you fail, and most do, there won't be a dramatic scene. There will be silence, a slow shift, and you'll never even realize that you've already surrendered. This is the part they never teach you, that the most dangerous power moves are done gently, with warmth, with affection, with subtle shifts that feel like intimacy but are actually control. And if you're a man who's been taught to lead with kindness, to explain, to please, to accommodate, then by the time you notice something's off, it will already be too late. You won't just lose her attention. You'll lose your authority, your self-respect, your direction, because no woman strips your power by force. She lets you give it away, piece by piece. And the more you give, the more invisible you become. Machiavelli didn't write for men who wanted to be liked. He wrote for men who wanted to rule. And if you want to survive in the modern world of love, loyalty, and hidden power dynamics, you need to stop asking, "Does she love me?" and start asking, "Does she respect me?" Because if she doesn't respect you, everything else is just theater. She will not raise her voice. She won't challenge you openly or demand your submission with fury. That's not how power is lost, not in the modern world. Power disappears in quieter ways now, through small, unspoken concessions, through the subtle erosion of your standards made in the name of patience, understanding, or what you were told was love. She will smile, shift her tone, cancel a plan, contradict something she said yesterday, and she'll do it softly. And while you're still telling yourself it's not a big deal, she's already watching, not to hurt you, not to trick you, but to see you, to measure what kind of man she's dealing with. Are you grounded, or do you adjust to please her? Do you have direction, or do you shift with every emotional gust she creates? That's the test, and it begins without warning, without explanation, without rules. It's in the moment. You say it's okay when it isn't. It's in how quickly you change your rhythm to match hers. It's in the way you tolerate contradiction without question. If you yield, if you give her your time, your energy, or your structure to win her comfort, you don't win her heart. You lose your authority. This is what most men never realize once you negotiate your self-respect for affection. It's no longer affection. It's leverage. You've handed her a silent map of how to move you, how to calm you, how to weaken you. And the worst part, you think you're being generous. You think you're doing the right thing. But Machiavelli warned us centuries ago. He who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. Apply that to the heart. If you give power to something or someone without testing its loyalty, first, you'll be overthrown from within. So this chapter doesn't begin with war. It begins with a smile, a delay, a contradiction, and your decision to either hold the line or start folding it. Because that first test isn't about her behavior, it's about your frame. And the moment you break your own standard to win her favor, the countdown to your collapse has already begun. Most men don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they misunderstand what they're up against. They think a woman's contradiction is confusion. They think her emotional distance is just a phase. They chalk up her tests to hormones, to mood, to stress. But the truth is far colder and far more calculated. Women are not chaotic. They are strategic. Not because they're manipulative in some cartoonish way, but because survival taught them to be. From a young age, most women learn to read people fast. They learn to adapt, to test boundaries without declaring them, to evaluate strength without ever saying the word test. Because unlike men who are often told to lead, women are taught to assess. And when a woman meets a man who claims to lead but cannot stand still under emotional pressure, she doesn't get angry. She simply recalibrates. Every soft contradiction she offers you isn't a game, it's reconnaissance. Every broken promise she watches you forgive too easily is a measurement of your spine. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, she watches. Not to punish you. Not yet. But to define you. You think you're earning points by being understanding. But what feels like kindness to you she may interpret as pliability. You believe you're building closeness through patience, but you might be quietly teaching her that your standards are optional. Machiavelli said, "A prince who is not himself shrewd cannot be well counseled." If you are not discerning, not strategic, you will be poorly advised, not by words, but by behavior you tolerate. She is not chaotic, she is reading you. Constantly. Silently. And what she's looking for isn't perfection. It's consistency. Integrity. The quiet, immovable presence of a man who knows who he is and won't betray that for a smile. Because a woman may test 10 men, but she will only trust the one who doesn't flinch. And trust, not love, is the foundation of true loyalty. Love is often loud. It burns hot. It intoxicates. It makes men feel chosen, seen, adored. But it also fades quickly, unpredictably, and sometimes cruelly. What remains long after the passion dies is not how much she loved you, but whether she ever truly respected you. That is the invisible thread that determines whether she stays, follows, submits, or slowly withdraws and replaces you without saying a word. A woman may enjoy the man she can move. She might even say she loves him. But the man she truly respects, that's the one she doesn't try to bend. That's the one she adjusts for. And the difference between the two isn't found in charm, wealth, or how much attention you give. It's found in how firmly you hold your ground when she tests it. Every interaction becomes a signal, a micro-assessment, a referendum on your strength. She shows up late. Do you stay calm but firm, or do you adjust everything to avoid discomfort? She mentions her ex. Do you react with jealousy or maintain indifference like a man who doesn't compete for attention? She mocks or dismisses your values. Do you question yourself or calmly reaffirm your standard? These are not petty moments. They are blueprints, psychological indicators she uses to determine who you really are. You think she wants sensitivity. She says she loves honesty. But the moment your truth clashes with her fantasy, the moment your no interrupts her control, that's when her real loyalty is revealed. A woman doesn't respect a man because he makes her feel good. She respects him because he can't be moved like the others, because he can walk through her storms without changing direction. Machiavelli understood this when he said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, when one of the two must be lacking." You don't need to be feared, but you do need to be immovable, because love alone cannot hold a relationship. Respect is what roots it. And once you lose that, no matter how deeply she once adored you, her loyalty dissolves quietly and forever. Many men brush off these moments thinking they're just part of dating, just the usual games. But calling it a game is how you excuse your own blindness. This is not a flirtation. This is not a mood swing. This is psychological warfare. And whether you know it or not, the battlefield is already beneath your feet. If you're a man who never tests the woman in front of you, understand this. She is already testing you. Not through words, but through behavior, through delays, through small boundary pushes, through emotional shifts and contradictions that look harmless until you start rearranging your life around them. She won't say, "I want control." She'll say, "You don't mind, do you?" She won't scream. She'll smile. And if you keep bending, if you keep surrendering energy, presence, and self-respect, just to avoid friction, then you're not being kind. You're being conquered. You weren't taught to test women. You were taught to believe in them, to show your heart, to lead with goodness, and win them over with reliability. And while those traits sound noble, Machiavelli would tell you, in a world where power is always in motion, the man who leads with goodness alone is leading himself to ruin. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, when one of the two must be lacking." Now that doesn't mean you must be cruel, but it does mean that you must be untouchable, unshakable. The kind of man who doesn't explain his values, he enforces them. The kind of man who doesn't argue when tested, he observes. Because the moment she senses she can steer you emotionally, she will never again see you as the center of gravity. You become an accessory to her moods instead of a force she aligns with. This is not a game. This is about your sovereignty, your ability to hold your position under emotional fire. You don't win that with charm. You win it by refusing to move. And if you can't do that, she won't have to leave you. You'll slowly disappear in her eyes, all on your own. She won't announce the test. She won't ask for permission. She won't explain what she's doing because she doesn't have to. The most powerful tests a woman gives you are silent, subtle, invisible. She's not looking for a reaction, she's watching for patterns, watching who you become when her energy shifts. She doesn't need to say, "Can I control you?" She'll simply act. She'll withhold affection. She'll pull back her attention. She'll change her tone, delay her replies, or contradict herself on purpose. Not to be cruel, but to gather information. And you, if you're like most men, will respond the way you were trained to. You'll chase. You'll over-explain. You'll try to make everything okay again, not because you're wrong, but because you can't bear the weight of emotional tension. And the moment you do that, you're no longer being seen as a man. You've become a project. She watches how quickly you compromise your standards, how fast you apologize for things you didn't do, how eagerly you adjust your direction just to make her smile. And what you don't realize is, this she may smile, but the respect is already gone. There is no dramatic rejection. There is no clear line. There is only distance, less warmth, less responsiveness, a subtle withdrawal that you can't quite name. You'll feel her pulling away but won't know why, because she never said the word no, but she didn't have to. She tested your frame and it cracked. And the moment she sees your soft core, the moment she realizes you'd rather be liked than respected, that's the moment she stops seeing you as unshakable. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." She might still be there physically, still laugh at your jokes, still say she loves you, but something shifted the moment she learned she could move you without resistance. She doesn't need to dominate you now because you've already surrendered, quietly, willingly, and without even realizing it, you've taught her exactly how to lead you. Most men don't fail because they lack strength. They fail because they lack the will to use it. They're afraid not of confrontation, but of what happens after it. They fear losing her warmth, her approval, her attention, so they avoid testing her. They avoid saying no. They avoid pulling back. And because of that, they never see the truth. They only live inside a performance. To test a woman is to disrupt the script, to step outside the rhythm she's become comfortable controlling. When you withhold attention, when you assert a quiet boundary, when you cancel a plan without explanation, not out of punishment but out of principle, you break the loop she's been using to evaluate your emotional leash. And that's when the truth starts to surface. But here's the hard part. You must be able to endure her reaction. She may escalate. She may guilt you. She may go silent. She may accuse you of being cold, distant, controlling. She might even become temporarily sweeter, weaponizing kindness to see if your strength was just a phase. This is where most men collapse. They think resistance means rejection. They think discomfort means failure. But Machiavelli warned injuries must be inflicted all at once so that their ill savor may be less. In other words, if you are going to assert power, do it fully, decisively, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Because nothing is more dangerous than a man who tests once, then folds at the first tier. You must not move. Not if she cries. Not if she withdraws. Not if she calls you selfish. Because if you fold now, you haven't just failed the test, you've confirmed that your strength was an illusion, a temporary costume worn for show. What she's truly watching isn't whether you'll say no once. She's watching what you do after she pushes back. Can you hold the line when it hurts? Can you stay grounded when the storm is emotional, not logical? That's what defines a leader. Not how he speaks, but how still he remains when others need him to bend. There's a reason most men never meet her. Not because she doesn't exist, but because they never become the kind of man who can filter for her. The rare woman doesn't arrive with fireworks or flattery. She doesn't try to impress you, nor does she need to be impressed. She waits. She watches. And when you test her not out of ego but out of principle, she doesn't rage, guilt, or manipulate. She holds her form, because she's not threatened by a man with standards. She respects him. But to find her, you must first walk through fire. You must be willing to lose the ones who fail your tests, who flinch at boundaries, who call you controlling the moment you say no, who disappear the moment the dynamic is no longer tilted in their favor. Most women won't pass, and most men won't endure the process long enough to meet the one who does. The rare woman respects strength, not dominance, not cruelty, but quiet, unwavering direction. She doesn't punish resistance. She doesn't collapse in silence when she can't manipulate the outcome. She adapts. She grows. She listens, not because she's weak, but because she's evolved. She understands that a man who can't be moved by emotion is a man who can carry weight. Real weight. But you won't find her if you're still afraid of tension. You won't recognize her if you expect peace to mean comfort. Because the rare woman doesn't make your life easier, she makes it clearer. She'll challenge your character without undermining your frame. She'll test your vision but never try to reroute it. And most of all, she'll only stay if she knows your standards aren't seasonal. That your power isn't a costume you wear to impress, but the fabric of who you are. She may not always agree with you, but she'll never try to dismantle you. Because she doesn't want to lead a man, she wants to follow one she can respect. And that kind of woman, you won't meet her until you've let go of the ones who couldn't bear your strength. Everything that feels good in the beginning can be a trap. The warmth, the affection, the way she seems to understand you instantly. It all feels like fate. Like maybe this time it's different, but Machiavelli warned us centuries ago, the vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances. And most men, they live in that crowd. They don't lead with caution, they lead with desire. They don't filter, they fantasize. And by the time they finally wake up, they're deep inside a dynamic they never consciously chose, trapped in a performance they didn't know they were part of. They gave trust without testing. They offered power without vetting character. They mistook immediate chemistry for lasting connection. But real connection doesn't start with ease, it starts with tension, with boundaries, with silence. And the only way to know what's real is to disrupt the illusion, to break the momentum, to interrupt the emotional high with one clear word, no. Say it, then observe. Cancel the plan and watch how she reacts. Stop explaining, stop chasing, stop solving her discomfort. See what remains when you're no longer giving. That's the test, and you don't need to announce it. The truth always reveals itself under pressure. Most women will flinch. Some will flee. But the ones who stay, the ones who lean in even when things don't go their way, those are the women who respect more than your charm. They respect your center, your ability to remain whole even when they're frustrated, emotional, or unsure. And if you're afraid to run this test, you're already living in fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough without her validation. But here's the truth. Any woman who cannot withstand scrutiny does not deserve your investment. And any man who avoids the test, who avoids the silence, the resistance, the edge, has already given up his throne. You weren't born to beg for peace. You were born to rule your frame. And she, if she's worthy, will only follow the man who doesn't flinch when the mask falls off. The question is, will you ever be brave enough to look? In today's world, many men believe that being kind, accommodating, and emotionally available is enough to earn love. But what they don't realize is that without self-respect, those traits mean nothing. One of the most painful truths is this: a woman may love you for your softness, but she will only stay loyal if she respects your strength. True respect isn't earned through flowers, gifts, or agreeing to everything she says. It's earned through quiet, consistent boundaries. It's earned when you say no, without fear, when you can sit in silence without chasing, when you stay grounded, even when her emotions shift. These moments are not about controlling her. They're about showing her that you won't abandon your values to keep her happy. Love that isn't tested is just chemistry. Respect that's not earned is just politeness. If you want to build something real, you must be willing to risk short-term comfort for long-term clarity. That means learning to observe before you invest. It means understanding that affection can be a trap and that power once surrendered quietly may never return. So, start today. Don't just aim to be liked. Aim to be respected. Hold your standards. Set your boundaries. And watch who stays when you stop apologizing for having a backbone. If this message hit deeper than you expected, you're not alone. Thousands of men are waking up to this truth, and you can be one of them. Subscribe for more content like this. Leave a comment if you've experienced this lesson in your own life. Share this video with a brother, a friend, or anyone who needs to hear it before it's too late.